Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to sift through the noise and pull out the really interesting stuff for you. And today, we're looking at a pretty clever new way to automate tasks. It involves Google Sheets, which lots of us use, but adds a layer of OpenAI intelligence on top.
Exactly. We've been digging into a YouTube video transcript, actually, from the Build and Roll channel. It shows off this system they call MCP. And our mission here is to figure out how this MCP thing lets you automate actions across different applications, just using plain English prompts.
Okay, yeah, let's definitely unpack that. Because, I mean, if it works like it sounds, imagine getting back all those hours you spend doing, tedious stuff, moving data, starting basic processes. That could seriously free you up for, the actual important thinking. So first things first, this video showed an MCP server. What exactly is that, in simple terms?
Okay, think of the MCP server as like a translator, or maybe a switchboard. The video showed one that had 3 specific tools set up. And tool here just means a predefined action MCP knows how to do. The examples were 1, add a row to a customer Google sheet, 2, add a row to a different sheet for vendors, and 3, send a prompt off to ChatGPT.
Ah, okay.
But the key thing they stressed was, this isn't limited. Pretty much any single step from an automation workflow could potentially become one of these tools.
So it's really flexible then, not just those 3 things. It could be this central command center for all sorts of automations.
That's the idea, yeah. An adaptable hub.
So how does this hub, this MCP server, actually talk to OpenAI? How does it, make things happen using that AI brain?
Right. This is where it gets pretty cool.
Yeah.
The person in the video, they took the web address, the URL for their MCP server, and they went over to the OpenAI API playground. The interface where developers test things out.
Okay.
Inside that playground, there's a specific spot labeled Tools. And this is designed exactly for this kind of thing, letting OpenAI connect to external services to, give it more capabilities.
Gotcha. Expanding its skill set.
Precisely. So they clicked to add an MCP server, pasted in that unique URL. They give it a quick label. I think it was PABBLY MCP or something simple. And interestingly, they pointed out that authentication, like proving it's allowed to connect, was actually handled within the URL itself in this case. So no extra login steps right there.
Huh. Convenient.
Yeah. Then they just hit connect.
And boom, OpenAI could just talk to the MCP server.
Just like that. The playground immediately showed the 3 tools we mentioned. Add customer, add vendor, use ChatGPT, listed as available actions.
Wow.
It's like handing OpenAI a menu saying, okay, here's some specific things you can now ask my system to do.
That's really neat. Okay, so you've got the connection, you've got the menu of tools. How does it decide which tool to use? And crucially, how do you stop it from just, going rogue and doing stuff without checking first?
Good question. And the video really emphasized this control aspect. You get choices for how tools get approved. You can set it so it just runs automatically. Or you can make it ask for your okay every single time.
Okay, like a confirmation step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you can just say never ask, just do it. And what's nice is you can set this globally for all tools, or you can fine-tune it. This tool needs approval, that one doesn't. So quite flexible.
Right.
In the demo, they started off with a cautious approach. Always require approval.
Makes sense to start there. Okay, so let's walk through that first example. Adding customer info to a Google Sheet. How did that play out?
Right. So the creator first just asked OpenAI, conversationally, generate 10 random customer names and emails. Standard stuff for the AI. Then came the key part. They prompted something like, please add this entire data to the Google Sheets. Notice sheets, plural, not specific.
Ah, interesting. Didn't specify which sheet.
Exactly. And this is the fascinating bit. The system, it figured it out. It automatically selected the add new row to customer sheet tool, even though it wasn't explicitly told use the customer tool.
So it inferred it from the data, maybe?
Seems like it, yeah. And because approval was set to always, for each of those 10 records, a little prompt popped up saying, okay to add this row.
Right, so you had to click yes 10 times.
Pretty much.
Oh, wait.
And they even deliberately clicked decline on one just to show you have that granular control. It then asks if you want to continue with the rest.
Okay, so it's like a very diligent assistant, understands the request, but double checks everything. But that sounds a bit slow if you have a lot of data. Did they show how to speed it up?
They did, yeah. That was the next step. They went into the settings and changed that global approval to never require approval.
Right, the fully automatic mode.
Yep. Then, for the customer data that hadn't been added yet because they declined one and stuff, they just prompted again. Something simple like, can you add the records in my Google Sheet now? And this time, zoom. It just went ahead and added all the remaining customer data straight into the sheet. No pop-ups, no confirmations.
Oh.
The big takeaway there was seeing it not only pick the right tool automatically again, but also execute it without needing constant hand-holding once you trust it.
It really shows the efficiency gain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the second example? The vendor information. Was that just rinse and repeat, or did it show something else?
It was similar in process, but I think it really drove home how smart the tool selection can be. So the creator asked for 10 random vendor names and emails this time. They even added context like, for my SaaS business.
Okay.
And importantly, they had their vendor Google Sheet open. And remember, that sheet was already linked up as the Add New Row to Vendor Sheet tool in MCP.
Right, the second tool they set up.
Exactly. So then came the prompt, and this was interesting. They said something like, can you add this data to the Google Sheet? A bit of a fumble in the prompt even.
Hey, happens. But again, no mention of vendor.
No mention of vendor at all. Just this data to the Google Sheet. And yet the system correctly picked the vendor tool.
Whoa.
And bam, automatically added all the vendor data into the vendor sheet. It's like the AI isn't just looking at keywords. It's understanding the context of the data it just generated and matching it to the most logical tool available.
It feels like it's actually understanding the relationship between the information and where it probably ought to go. That's pretty advanced.
It really is. It's leveraging that natural language understanding, connecting your sort of fuzzy intent with those very specific preset actions. And the video even hinted at more complex stuff. Like imagine you also had a tool for verifying email addresses set up in MCP.
Okay.
You could potentially prompt something like generate vendor data, verify the emails, and only add the ones with verified emails to the vendor sheet. That shows the potential for chaining actions together.
Right. Sequential conditional automation just through prompts. That opens up a lot. Okay, we've been saying actions and tools. You mentioned they're slightly different. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, it's a subtle but helpful distinction. So think about the platform where you build the original automation. The video suggested it was PABBLY Connect, but it could be others.
Right, the underlying workflow builder.
Exactly. In that system, the individual steps are called actions, like action. Add a new row to Google Sheet X.
Got it.
Now, when you want to make one of those specific actions available for the MCP server, so OpenAI can trigger it with language, that's when it becomes a tool in the MCP context. The video showed within that PABBLY Connect interface, you'd find your action, click like a little 3 dots menu, and there'd be an option like add as tool to MCP server.
Ah, okay. So you explicitly promote an action to become an MCP tool. It's not automatic for everything.
Correct. You choose which actions become tools. And when you do that, the video really highlighted 2 things. Give the tool a very clear name and write a good description.
Why is that so important?
Because that name and description are what the AI, like OpenAI's model, uses to figure out which tool matches your natural language request.
That makes sense.
So instead of just calling a tool add row, calling it something like add new customer record to main Google Sheet and describing it as, adds customer name and email to the primary customer tracker sheet, that gives the AI way more context to make the right choice.
Right. Clarity is key for the AI to understand what each tool actually does.
Good tip. Any technical gotchas or things to keep in mind when setting this up?
They mentioned one small thing. When you first add a new tool to your MCP server, it might take a few minutes. They said maybe around 5 minutes in their test before OpenAI actually sees it and lists it as available on the playground.
Okay, a slight delay to propagate. Good to know.
But yeah, other than that, the actual process of connecting the MCP server URL to the OpenAI playground seemed, well, surprisingly straightforward. Just copy, paste, connect.
Okay, so let's recap the main idea here. This MCP system, it works like a bridge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Connecting apps we use every day, like Google Sheets, to the language smarts of OpenAI.
And this lets you automate tasks in those apps just by asking the AI in plain English.
And it's intelligent enough to figure out which specific pre-built tool or action is needed for your request.
It really makes automation feel much more approachable, I guess. Less about complex setup, more about just describing what you need done.
Definitely. Lowering the barrier, you could say.
Yeah.
Instead of needing code or clicking through tons of menus, you can just, talk to your systems more naturally.
It really makes you think, though, doesn't it, about the bigger picture? If you can link apps and automate workflows this intuitively,
Yeah.
what else could this apply to? I mean, think about connecting your email, your calendar, project tools, and maybe even internal databases. The potential for just streamlining everyday work seems, well, huge.
It absolutely does. This points towards a really interesting shift, how we interact with technology. As AI gets better at understanding us, and we have these hubs like MCP to connect it to specific actions, it really makes you wonder, how fundamentally will this change how we approach our jobs, our tasks, the whole nature of getting work done?
Yeah, it's definitely something to chew on. What routine tasks that you do could potentially be handled this way down the line. Lots to think about there.